guys, so today I'm going to be building my PC. It's been a while in the making. I got my case in December and it's now February 20th. So it's been a while. I spent probably a couple of weeks looking for a GPU because they're very expensive. Finally got one off of eBay and now I'm here. So we're going to be just gonna go at it. I know nothing, by the way, about building a PC. I am going off of what I see in YouTube videos. So hopefully it'll work. So I've already done some work on it. A lot of you are going to yell at me. This is my workspace. It's not great, but at least I have a towel. I have a towel to make sure that things don't go awry. I think that's just a delivery guy. Hold on. It's fine. It's fine. So as you can see here, I have a Mutex case, Mutex MU3. I took the back panel off, I took the front panel off, and this was really weird. It has, apparently this is unusual, but it has screws, like actual Phillips head screws instead of thumb screws. And you only had to screw it on this side, and then just take it off on that side. And so that was that. I put my tempered glass here. You guys are probably gonna yell at me, but that's just where I put it. It's out of the way. I'm not touching it. It's staying safe. I haven't done anything on the front yet, obviously. And then in the back, I have all these wires, which is a nightmare. This thing came just kind of out. And so there was a paper on the back that I had to take off to make it stick on there. I'm pretty sure that's what I was supposed to do. I saw a video of a guy that his was already on there. So hopefully that's what I was supposed to do. If it's not, that's unfortunate. So I have all of my fan wires here. I have this big power supply thing here. I have a lot of, like, my fan and my RGB are all connected here, as well as I think my audio is connected there as well. And then I have all of these, which I'm not exactly sure what exactly they all are. Again, I know nothing about this. So there's that. I'm also working with a Gigabyte B550M motherboard. It's very nice. I have it just sitting on here safely right now. Let's get started. So I'm working with a Predator RAM. This is 16 gigabytes, 2 little sticks of 8, and then a Ryzen 5 5600. Let's get this. All right, so unboxed here we have the CPU cooler. It is very nice and actually comes with some thermal paste. You can see there that I touched it. Oopsies. Hopefully that won't impact the performance at all. And then here we have the actual CPU. We have a little bit of thermal paste. It's not thermal, that's just... I thought that was thermal paste. That's just a sticker. Okay. So you can see here on the CPU, there's a tiny, if it'll focus, tiny little golden triangle at the bottom left corner. And here on my motherboard, on the top right, there is a tiny little gold triangle. And so that's how I'm supposed to line it up. Here, I'm just going to pop this up. Okay, thank God I did that correctly. And take this and just drop it in. There should be no force, says everyone, applied. And one guy even said just to give it a little bit of wiggle. All right, that seems good. I could put this back in. And that's that. Now to do the cooler, I need to get rid of these. Some old British guy told me to do this on the internet. So I'm gonna get rid of these, if it'll come off. So here you can see that there are 4 screws, they're all spring-loaded, and these two are a little bit closer together than these two, and it's the same on the other 2 sides of this. So that means that the AMD thing, you can see like under my pointer finger there, can either go away from the what's it called, the RAM, or towards the RAM, and that's where the RAM is gonna go, by the way, right there. I only know this because I've watched like a lot of YouTube videos, so I'm not an expert. So I'm going to try to get that in that right there. And there we go, that's seems pretty secure. And now I just need to, if I can find my screwdriver, do a little bit of that. And the video I watched said that you should do just a little bit at a time on each of them until you get a good lock on each of them so that the thermal paste distributes evenly or something. So I'm gonna do that. A lot of the videos I watched said that a lot of these screws, since they're spring-loaded, they would just kind of stop turning, but they did not do that. Mine just started clicking every time I would make a turn, and it seems pretty securely on there, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it like that. Here, you can see it says CPU fan right there, and I have my little CPU fan thing here, so I'm just going to... Why isn't it going? Hello? Am I not pushing hard enough? Hold up. So it looks like I was doing it the different way. These two little lines on the top, they correlate with this little thing that comes up here. So I'm just gonna push that in a little bit more to get a full grip on that. So that's that. I don't really know how to deal with this cables. I'm gonna leave that for now. I'll figure out cable management later. I have some twisty ties I stole from the bread that my family buys. By the way, these were both on my motherboard as well. The first step was to remove them, leave the back plate on, because there's a back plate that's like under that. So I had to remove these. I don't know why they were there in the first place, but I had to remove them. So now I have put everything back in here, all of the plastic, all of the boxing, and I'm just gonna put that over there. And now on to the RAM. I'm using 16 gigabytes of HyperX Predator DDR4 whatever RAM. It has some LED on it, which is pretty cool. It's a little bit more expensive with the LED, but it was like $15 or something. So I figured if it'll look cool, why not? As I said earlier, this is where you put the RAM. We have these little thingies here, and you need to make sure that they're pulled back in order to put the RAM in. If you've ever gone skiing, it kind of looks like the mechanisms on skis. And you can also see here that there's a little notch in the yellow part of it. I know that's not the name, and you guys are going to yell at me for that, but I'm just going to call it the yellow part because I can. And then here you can see, over here, there are little notches in the little, whatever they're called here. And so I need to make sure that the notch here is lined up with the notch there, or else it won't go in. Thankfully, it is lined up, so I'm just going to see if I can line that up there. Just like that, and then I need to push. See, it's kind of, a little lever is going there, and a little lever is going there. Did you hear that? That was a little click there, and a little click there. Now that one is in, and I'm going to repeat the process for the other one. Looks like I had to push a little bit on these more. It was a more noticeable click the second time. But I got these both in. Be gone. With my motherboard, it came with this thingy here. I forget what it's called, but it goes right here. And if you can see here on these little, they're all raised. They correspond with all of these. So I'm gonna need to watch some videos on how to install this. But this goes in the case and it helps with mounting the motherboard. This is a cable to figure out what that is. And then this is a DVD, which I'm assuming teaches you how to use the motherboard. But, well, I didn't watch it. Alright, so this thing, it's called the I/O shield, I just figured out. And so this is the front, where you can see all of the different labels. There's like a USB one here, this keyboard, I think that's a mouse, you know, another USB, whatever. And so one thing the guy suggested is to put it on here to see if it'll do that. Now I'm holding my phone with one hand and this with the other, so I'm gonna try to do it with two hands so I won't be able to record it. But basically, you're just supposed to do it like that. Now, you gotta make sure that these little things here, which I had to bend up, they look a little bit different, it seems, on every I/O shield, but these ones look like this. You had to bend them up. Make sure they don't go into the sockets that you're trying to make them go into, because apparently it can be, like, really, really bad. Okay, well, that's the back plate. That's not ideal. Okay, so it looks like I was way too light in screwing in these screws. I guess because of the springs, I didn't push down enough, so it didn't actually go into the back plate. So I had to push down a lot harder, and it turns out they actually did just stop screwing. You know, I'm trying to screw it here, and it's not moving. So now it is sturdy. I can pick it up by this. I don't know if I'm really supposed to do that. And now I'm gonna try to do this. All right, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. I ended up pushing down, if it'll focus. I ended up pushing down some of these little lever things here just because it didn't seem like they fit. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but yeah, I'm just gonna try to go ahead and install it and hopefully it works. Okay, so I watched the video and I realized what I was doing wrong. So these things are not supposed to, oh, forgot to do this one. These things are not supposed to go all the way up like you saw those were. They're not supposed to be at a 90-degree angle with the, whatever this is called, with the shield here, with the I/O shield here. They're not supposed to be at a 90-degree angle. They're supposed to be kind of just about, I don't know if that's 40 degrees, maybe a little bit less than 40 degrees. So that, when you put it on there, these little things go in the gaps in between the different ports that you have. So that they're just kind of touching it, but they're not actually, you know, going in anything, because that would be very bad. So the other thing still applies. Make sure that these things do not go inside of any of your ports. So here you can see all of the little things right there, all the ports. And so if you were to picture my case right here, this is it lying down, but like right side. Like this is the way that the motherboard goes, basically. And again, here's where the I/O shield, whatever it's called, is going. The configuration of my motherboard, the I/O shield, goes right about here, if I can get it in. Hold on. Porting this part again, because I recorded it in time-lapse last time. I'm gonna have to actually put it in with two hands, but you can see these little bumps here. That's what helps it go into place. So it will take a bit of effort to put it in. I mean, obviously you don't want to break it, but it will take some pushing. Actually took quite a bit more effort than I thought it would, but it's definitely in there. You can see even it chipped the paint a little bit on it. Obviously, it's just a little bit there, but yeah, so that took a great amount of effort to put that in. So my computer came with a bunch of different types of screws. Not the computer, I'm sorry, my case came with a bunch of different types of screws. I have this one, I don't even know what this is. This one, and that one. And it didn't really tell me which one to install my motherboard with. So one of the people I watched just said, if you don't know, just try them. This one is too big. This one only went in a little bit, but this one went all the way in to the little mounting ports that I have. You can see there's one right there. There's one right over there. And so I will be using these little screws to put my motherboard in. And here with the motherboard, you can see there are little sockets to put the screws in. Here's one, here's one. There's one right next to the fan cable. Here's one, and there's another one somewhere here. But as I said, the motherboard will be going like this. So when I put my motherboard in, I'm gonna wanna line it up with these first. As I said, the little raised parts on my motherboard, and then all of these. All right, so my sister actually suggested this new little setup here. So what I'm going to be doing here is sliding my motherboard in. You need to make sure beforehand that there's nothing that will, you know, like scrape up your, that was a bit hard. Scrape up your motherboard on the back side, any extra pegs or anything. If you find extra pegs that you know will probably scratch up your motherboard, I don't really know what you're supposed to do about that. I just know it's bad. So you don't want that. I need to line this thing up with all of the proper things here. All right, now I know you can't see it very well, but all of the little holes here are all lined up. So now I'm going to be taking all of my little screws and screwing it in. So I have more than enough holes in my motherboard to screw it in. I have 2 extra here. I don't need these, so I'm just gonna ignore them. I don't really know what they're for. Hopefully they're not really important. And drop that in. That should probably be good. One of the people I watched said that when you meet just the slightest bit of resistance, you should turn your screwdriver, what was it, like a 1/16 of a turn more or something. So you really don't want it on there super tightly, obviously enough for it to stay. But not super duper tightly, because you don't want to damage the motherboard in any way, of course. By the way, my case came with pre-installed fans. You can probably see them on the case here. Usually, I think you would have to put them in or even like buy new ones. I don't really know. But the reason you did not see me install them is because they were already there when I got the case. We'll turn there. And now the motherboard is in. Found a dead stink bug inside my case. That's fantastic. Okay, so now wiring. This is gonna get kind of complicated. This is a USB 3. It goes right there. You can see it says USB 3.2. Don't know what the 0.2 means, but it's USB 3. And it also, you can tell, because it has a blanked out pin there. So there's no pin there. And this one has a blanked out pin right there. You can't really see it that much because it actually has a hole, but it's just kind of blocked up. Just take my word for it. And then this, I don't really know what it is. It has 3 pins, and this thing here has 3 pins. And then it has a little thing that goes with it that has also 3 pins, but they're all next to each other. This thing has 4 pins, but should probably work. Then this, they're all labeled. This is the Power SW, whatever that means. HDD LED, and then Power LED, positive and negative. Apparently these both can be together or apart. They have it apart here, but it looks like I can just put them together. They all go in here, and then if I go around back here, this wouldn't stay here, but this is audio. It just goes right there where you see audio, and you can tell because there's a blanked out pin there and there is a blanked out pin there. So I'm going to take this and put it in there. When I get this just right, I'm just gonna do this without camera. Okay, got that in. You wanna make sure you do this very carefully because they're like, kind of like these. There were a ton of prongs inside of here and they're really fragile. And if you mess one of those up, you're like, you know, you're done. It's gone, it's gone. I don't know if you can see this, but very low you can see on the white thing, it says LED, HD, PW, RES, yeah, that's where all these go. So the HD LED is the hard drive LED, so that's this one. So this will go, you could also see that there's a positive and negative sign on the motherboard. There's a positive and negative sign here, so I'm going to have to line those up to get that working. There we go, that's in. Power ones go somewhere. Not exactly sure, actually. I'm going off of the seat of my pants here, so. All right, so I got all those in. I just kind of guessed, honestly. So if you want to know how to do that, probably just watch a video. That's all I can offer on that. So that's that. I decided not to do this one just because I don't really know where it goes. I have all of these wires and I have the audio thing here. Honestly, I just kind of guessed on these. One thing I will say that I do know is that you're gonna wanna try to put these in, like, coming from the back where, like, closest to where you want them to go. So this one, I wouldn't wanna put it through this little thing here, right? So this one came through here, and whatever. All right, it seems the SSD is pretty simple. I have a Samsung 500 gigabyte SSD. This is a little tray that came out of the back here. You can see there's a little place there. My wonderful wire arrangement. So I'm gonna put that in there. Now I'm not sure which screw I want to use. So I'm going to take the SSD off here. A wonderful lady on my case pan foot. It looks like we'll be using the same type of screws that we use to install the motherboard. This probably won't be the case on every single PC, so don't just assume that they're the same screws for the motherboard and the SSD, but that's just the case with mine. I thought I was recording, but I was not. Basically, I just screwed these in and talked about how this can also be used for an HDD. I do not have an HDD, I have an SSD, but yeah, you can also use this for an HDD. And now, you just slide that back in there. There you go. Good news, I figured out what the wire was, or at least what one of the wires was. I still have another one. I don't know what that is. Put that in the box. I found out what one of these is that was in with the motherboard. It is a SATA wire, and this goes in the SSD or hard drive or whatever you have. So I'm going to put that hopefully in there, if it'll fit. Can you fit, please? Ah, there we go. Heard that little, not the big click, but the little click at the end. That was that, just kind of popping in. And now I'm going to feed this through. Well, actually, I need to figure out first where it is on the motherboard. All right, so I figured it out. It looks like I can go in any 3 of these. I mean, if it goes into a specific one, it doesn't mark it on there, so I'm just gonna assume it can go into any of them. So I'm going to put it onto the bottom one here, that little click, and this excess I can just feed out there. Hopefully that won't cause me any problems, but I guess we'll see later if that does. There's also here a little, it says just USB on it, and it has a little pin off in the top corner. And this thing has a little pin off in the top corner. It says USB 1. I'm just gonna put it in there and hope for the best, I suppose. I don't really know where it goes, but it says USB, so USB, I guess. All right, I'm using an EVGA B5 series power supply. It's fully modular, which I feel like it was a bit more expensive, but I feel like that was worth it since I know nothing about wires. This is the fan. Fan side usually goes down unless you have a reason for it not to be. And you can see I have some holes here for screws, which I'm going to line up with these holes here. Thankfully it came with a bunch of screws, so I'm able to put those in. And I have some complications with some wires here, so I'll have to do this off camera with both hands. But yeah, as you can see here, my holes are all lined up. And now I'm just gonna have to put the screws in. All right, so we have that big mess of cables, and we're not gonna worry about that right now. We're just gonna worry about this thing, which does something. I don't know what it does, but it does something. This goes into the motherboard, whereas those little things go into the power supply. And this, it's 24 pins, I think. I don't know. It goes right there with exactly what it looks like. So now we have this thing. It goes on the CPU, which a lot of times it's labeled CPU, which is fantastic. But this cannot get confused with the other 8-pin thing we have. This one is also 8 pins, but as you can see, it has 3 different connectors on the same thing. This one also splits off into 6 and 1, whereas this one splits off into 4 and 4. That's what you want. So you're going to take the other side, not the 4 and 4 side, but the other side, and that usually goes, I guess, above the CPU, right about there. And so I'm going to plug that in. Now I've just run that out the top there. For a graphics card, I'm using a Gigabyte 1080. It is used. I got it off of eBay, so I didn't have to pay an ungodly amount of money. On your graphics card, you're going to want to look for something that looks a little bit like that. It might not always be 8 pins. It'll be something like that. And so the wire I'm going to be using is this wire. It looks a little funky, but that's fine. So I'm just going to put this and run it straight. Well, yeah, I'll run it just straight through here. So that when I'm ready, I can just kind of put my graphics card there. We have this wire. This wire is a SATA wire, or wires, I guess I should say. This one is right here. Goes into your hard drive. This one is also very fragile, so you're gonna wanna do it as best you can. I don't know if I can do this like this. Just a minute. It just occurred to me that I can in fact take this thing out, so I'll be doing it like that. All right, now that that's in, I also have this thing, which comes out of this little hub here. It also says, on the other side, SATA on it. So this plugs into here. All right, so now with this mess of a case, we're gonna want to, we're gonna wanna run all of our cables. So this one, we got this one, we got this one, we got this one. And something to keep in mind, especially with this huge wire, you wanna make sure that you're gonna be able to close this case afterwards, because you only got, I don't know, less than an inch of space, or I have at least less than an inch of space. So I'm gonna try to wire that correctly. As you can see, I've done a little bit of organizing here, a little bit of organizing here. A lot of these, I wasn't really able to do as much organizing as I would have liked since they're all just connected to this thing here, but that's okay. Now I really just have all of my power supply cables to put into the actual power supply. Alright, so that took me longer than I'd like to admit, and I'm still not done. But I had to actually unscrew the PCU to be able to tilt it, to be able to get these in. And then they're all labeled, so this one is obviously the biggest one, and then the SATA, and then VGA is VGA, and then the CPU is the CPU. I also had to actually change out the CPU wires, so the two with it was split and had 4 and 4, that is now in the motherboard, and this one is just going to go right in there. Okay, had to take a little bit of a break because my phone almost died. I'm done with all of this. By the way, I just wanted to say this case is pretty great. It's Mustex MU3. As you can see on there, it comes with all of these fans. As I said, I didn't even have to like mess with the fans at all. It has this like hub thing. You know, I didn't have to deal with any of the fan cables or any of the RGB cables or anything like that, which is pretty great, especially for a first-time user. So I'm not sponsored, but this case is pretty sweet. All right, now for the GPU. Now for the GPU, I'm going to have to get rid of 2 slots. These 2 slots, and I can do that by getting rid of some of these 2 screws here. Because the GPU is going to be connected right here. Kind of looks like one of the RAM slots, but it's not a RAM slot, it's a GPU slot. Done that. As I said, I'm using a Gigabyte 1080 GPU, and because of this little thing here, I'm going to have to take away this part on as well, just so that it's able to fit. So I had a bit of a complication, and this is the complication. I had to take, this is the panel that went right here. I could not put this in because there was a little tab right here that would go up against the panel that was right here. It wouldn't allow it to be installed. However, when I removed the panel, which I don't know if I was really supposed to do because it had these tiny little screws, but whatever. This actually, the hole here actually corresponds with the holes on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install this, or line it up with that, and then put all of this back. You can see this is all done, and here as well, this little hole lines up with that hole. I know it's not very focused, but you can still see it, and that little hole lines with that hole, and all of that. Right, so I have done all of these little screws here, and when you install your GPU, you want to make sure that that all lines up, just so that, you know, you can get to it if you need to. Don't really know what it is or what it's for, but it's there, and you want to have access to it. Now you can put your 8-pin little thing in there. It'll go. That's in. With all of the PCU parts, you should be able to at least see or hear the little clip on top or on bottom go in, and it might take a little extra push. Make sure not to give it too much push, but just a little bit of push so that it goes in. All right, I have the very nice GPU mount in place. GPUs can have a problem with sagging or something because it's only attached right here, right? And one thing you can do is just kind of take these cables and have them run in up here so that it kind of like pulls it up a little bit. My case, the Mustex, came with this little thing here. It's actually resting on the bolt, which I don't think is the best, but it's you know, it's cool, and this thing isn't sagging anymore, so you know. And then that little wire that I was confused about earlier, I ended up just putting it in there, like it's fine. And then I put the case back on, which just needed to be slid in, and I did these 2 little bolts. And now for the tempered glass. Just that one goes in here. All right. They were a bit hard to get in, but I got them in. And I have not taken the screen off of this tempered glass yet, so will you look at that? And there you go. Isn't that pretty spiffy? ba 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 da 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 da